Hey everybody, how are you doing today? Welcome to my channel. Please take time to like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment if you'd like to. I want to get through episode 7 of The Tiger King. Gotta have my buddy. Okay. Dethroned is the title of it. And now we know Joe is in jail. He's awaiting his trial, which is coming up in this episode. And he calls his husband, who he's had now for not very long, 3 times a day, because he's afraid the kid's going to leave him. I mean, he's a lot younger, and plus he's alone, and I don't think he signed up for this, but yeah, that's okay. He calls him though, and the kid's like, don't worry about me. I'm not going anywhere. Just concentrate on getting out of jail. Okay? So we know that Jeff Lowe is talking about starting a new zoo in Thackerville, Oklahoma. Now, this is between Oklahoma City and Dallas. It's closer to Dallas. It's right off of I-35. So, they were talking about Texans having more money than people in Oklahoma, so they wanted to get closer to Texas to have more business. Okay? He takes on Tim Stark as a partner. And nobody's thinking about Joe at this point. So, Jeff is even so kind before he leaves Wynwood to let the feds in Joe's house, and they took records from there, and then they found some tiger bones outside, and claims that Joe shot them. So they're charging him with the death of the tiger plus the sale of tigers, and Joe says he euthanized them, which is not 100% true, as we will find out later. But Jeff Garrettson, if you remember him, he was the first informant. He was the one that got caught first, and he brought Jeff Lowe into the mix for immunity, and he says he's not included in the new zoo. It was his idea. And Jeff would have been in trouble if it wasn't for him. So he reminds me of, the little kid that sneaks in the house and gets the pack of cookies and takes them out to his older brother and his friend, and they eat the cookies and don't give him any. He should have had his. Poor baby. I feel so sad. So Jeff and Alan are getting immunity. Alan was the guy that, a felon also, and he was the one that was going to actually do the hit, okay, if you remember. And he chickened out and went back to South Carolina. So the feds go through the zoo, and they're basically telling all the staff, you're either Team Fed or Team Joe. So I don't know what, all these people have hanging over their heads. I don't think any of them are major criminals. Maybe some drug offense, maybe drunken disorderly or trespassing or something minor, shoplifting. But needless to say, none of them want to go to jail. So yeah, Joe's kind of left hanging to dry. So the day of court, and most of his employees are testifying against him on behalf of the animals and the murder for hire. Carol takes the stand on day 2. Now, Jeff Garrettson says Jeff Lowe was more active in this plot, really. He doesn't testify because Jeff Lowe could actually perjure himself if he did. But you remember, he was the one who got Carol's park basically on Google Maps so they could plot, when they were jokingly plotting about this, where they could hide, what path she would go down, where she would be, the best place to hide to shoot her, So he actually went a step farther than Joe. So I don't know why he's not in trouble yet, but yeah. So the news reporter there even says, how could any of this be taken seriously when none of these guys can be trusted? Now, I don't know if Joe paid for his attorneys or if they were public defenders. I honestly don't know how that worked. But if I was an attorney, for one thing, I would be shot or suicided by now. But they have to give them a list of witnesses, of people that are testifying. And I would have hired, a few office people, and me myself too. I would have done so many background checks on everybody. And when they were done testifying, I would say, well, you have this charge of, you were smuggling these animals in a suitcase. So is this forgiven now that you've spoken your piece? I would have nailed each and every one as being an incredible witness, okay? But that's me. Like I said, I would have been suicided. But Joe did take the stand against the advice of his attorneys, but I think he probably isn't having a lot of faith in them at this point, and I don't blame him. He had an answer for everything they asked, a reasonable answer. Now, Josh Dial, who I think was the Walmart employee that Joe hired, says he was set up. And Jeff admits that they did want him out of the way, 'cause he would have been tagging along to their new zoo and getting all the attention, and yeah. The prosecutor refers to him as a king who thought he was above the law. She almost sounds a little jealous of that. She seems like one of these, cut and dry, you have to have a square peg in a square hole, and the round peg don't belong, and she definitely was the square peg in the square hole. So, she doesn't understand his concept of doing what he wanted to do in life and not following the masses. So, Jeff Lowe's ready for the new zoo and his new daughter. His wife says they need a nanny. And he says, okay, as long as I get to pick her. So, of course, he picks a beautiful woman. They have very loose lifestyle. And I wonder, what kind of example are you setting for your daughter? That this is okay, that daddies screw around on mommies and mommies just smile and go with it? Yeah. If I was his wife, I'd be doing some heavy thinking. But John Reinke is upset that no one else is getting in trouble over this. And he calls the feds, and he says, why wasn't I brought in? And they don't really have an answer for him other than this is far from over. So, Joe at this point is deciding that it's time for him to defend himself. He meets with PETA, and he tells them about the other animal zoos with their bad treatments and the things that they are doing. So, now maybe he could get less time if he does this. I don't know. But Jeff and Tim Stark get into an argument. Tim says he's paying for everything and he's doing all the work on this new zoo, and Jeff is nowhere to be found. He's out living the lifestyle. So he leaves. Kelsey said no one has won out of this situation. Not a single animal has benefited. And she's right. John Findlay has Joe's name tattoo covered with a bull head. So everybody's kind of moving on. And Rob Kirkham says, that Joe didn't care for the animals as time went on. And he was trying to make this reality show of the zoo. And he said it was getting harder and harder to do because Joe had no interest in them. He was busy running for president and then for governor, and, then of course he felt some loss for the death of his husband, and then married the new husband, and yeah, so animals were all just on the back burner. But Joe is sentenced to 22 years. The Big Cat Safety Act does not pass at this time, and Doc Antle's Zoo was raided in 2019. Could it have been something Joe said? It's really making me wonder now where this is really going to go. Now, this whole story has been weird, to say the least. And in the back of my mind, I wonder, because, Don Lewis, Carol's husband who is missing, has never been found. His ex-wife and daughters were in the show, and I am wondering deep down if they didn't go to Netflix and say, because they didn't care for Carol. They wouldn't have cared if Joe had carried out his plot. They would have probably celebrated. But I wonder if they didn't go to Netflix and say, hey, there was a murder to hire against my missing husband's second wife. Maybe you should investigate it, and then maybe she will slip up and say something that she shouldn't and bring attention back on her. I kind of wonder if maybe something like that didn't happen, if they didn't kind of put a bug in Netflix's ear. Anyway, that will be a whole other story, and we will find out. We will move on into the after party, so to speak, of Tiger King, which was the very last episode, episode 8. So, my friends, I will see you soon. Bye.